So you can see that I have the majority of this blocked in, and now I want to start working on the apple. So you can see here that this is the darkest area of the apple, and it does start to transition down to not quite as dark. And since this is only the block in, I know that I'm going to make this area a little bit lighter than the darker area. So in the darker area, I've mixed ultramarine blue with yellow ochre, alizarin crimson, and just a dab of magenta for the darker area. Then for the lighter area, I took the same green, ultramarine and yellow ochre, and I added a little bit more of yellow ochre in there, and then I added a little bit of the Cad Yellow Light. So I have a lighter value of the red, but it's a little bit colder because I have cold shadows. Colder because I've mixed the yellow ochre into that mix. So I'm going to start with this new mix of, okay, so that's very pretty, but I didn't make enough. So you notice when I'm painting, I am not blending at all. So now I do have to mix some more. So if you want to watch, that's fine. If not, I'll delete it for another video. But okay, so I've got my alizarin crimson. I'm going to add, let's just get a little bit more alizarin crimson. I'm going to add my yellow ochre. And I'm just going to put a touch of this green in here. So that's a nice rich color. So you can see that it's lighter than my first mix. So here I'm dipping into this new mix that I made, and this is going to be the area of the apple right in here. So as I'm applying this, I'm going with the shape of the form. My brush strokes are moving with the shape of the form. I'm going to go back into my darker mix and put in some of this shadow color. It is just a little bit darker shadow. Okay, so and there are some darker areas in here as well. So I'm going to put this area in here. Dark, dark. Come around here like that. Then I'm wiping my brush off, going back into that lighter color, and I'm coming along the edge here, kind of rotating my brush a little bit all the way to the edge of the apple. Okay, so this value on the left side of the apple is almost the same as the right side, but it is going to get a little bit warmer because it's starting to come out of the shadow. So I'm going to put a little bit of this lemon in there. I'm sorry, Cad Yellow Light. And it turned an orange color, and I don't really want it to be orange, so I am going to go with my magenta. So now it's gotten a little bit warmer. I like that. And it's lighter. So wipe your brush off again. Now we're going to come in here. Oopsie. I do want that to be a little bit lighter, so. I'm dipping into a lighter mix of yellow and there. So you can see it is getting a little bit lighter in here. Nice. Okay, so I don't particularly want these edges to be too hard, but I don't want them blended because we're not molding this apple. You don't necessarily want it to be smooth when you paint, because when you're painting, you want to express yourself on the canvas, and it's not a photograph. So it's important that you start to learn how to lay in the paint so that it has a painted feel to it. You have to get a little bit more of this shadow color in here. So it's important to always look at your shape. So I'm thinking that this red, this darker red, is a little bit too dark for me. So I'm going to take just a wee bit of white. I meant wee bit. And I'm going to put white plus alizarin crimson and a dab of my green mix in here. Just a dab. And some yellow ochre. Back into my green mix. Okay, and I think I want some more of my red magenta in there. And a dab of alizarin. So I'm putting more pigment back into this white that I applied. All right, so I'm going back into the lighter mix of this red I had mixed. There we go. Okay, so now coming up to the top of the apple near the area that I just put in, I can see that it's got some yellow, orange, not too bright, yellow, orange, and a little magenta. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so here, a little bit more yellow. A little bit more yellow. So every time you have a lighter color and you go into a darker color, it's really good to wipe your brush off a little bit. Either wipe your brush off or go back in again. With the other color. All right, so now I notice that around towards the back, there's a little bit more yellow starting to read on this apple. So there's a little bit more yellow, and it's yellow green, in fact. So I do have a yellow green mix that I had from the other day. It's not okay, so I see that this is on the orangey side here. This meaning here it is orange, yellow. It's like a yellow, red, orange. And also got some green. So my green dried up. So I have some yellow that is on the yellow green side, but I think it's a little bit too bright. So I have yellow green over here, and I know it's green, so if I want it dulled down a little bit, I can put a little bit of orange, because orange is part of the complement of red. Yeah, so I like that. So you just have to watch how far you neutralize each color. Okay, so I know this is green in here. That's nice. That little stroke I made, that's a happy one. Okay, so here we've got a little bit of yellow in here. Yes, oh right. And there's a little bit of yellow green. Coming around on this side. This is more like a shadow color in here. So your brush strokes go in the direction of how the form is curving. All right, so I'm going to push this red a little bit on the left side, because that's really where the light is. So I know I want a yellow, like a yellow orangey red on this side here. More yellow. We have warm light, cold shadows. So now I think I'm going to add just a little bit more magenta in there, right in here. I'm almost going to put a all right, so now on the top left side, I do see that it's more on the yellow ochre side. I mixed a little bit of yellow ochre, a little bit of yellow, and just a dab of magenta in there. And a little bit of yellow. Magenta, yellow, I want it to be brighter, so Mixing yellow into my orange. Okay, and I think I could pop this with a little bit of yellow right in here. Okay, now I have to get my shadow color back for the inside of that shape. So I'm going to take my green and a little bit of my red and plop it right in there. So I've got a nice shadow, right? Okay, so now I know that I've got shadow color, and then I've got, I'm going to take a little bit of my lemon yellow mix in white and put it into that shadow color that I just had. And I'm going to put it right here. Right there on that. Now, I know it's not reading right because the value on the left side is not quite dark enough. I see that it's warm, but it is darker. So I'm going to go back in here. Oopsie, that's not, it's a little bit too dark. So I do see a little orange in there, but it's on the cold side. So I'm going to use my yellow ochre plus my lemon yellow to see if I can get that orange color in here. And I know it's got some green in there. I'm still liking the green, definitely. So the personality of this apple does read where it's got a little bit of red in there. Now this has some more green. Okay, I'm noticing that my shadow color, or the reflected light on the stem, is not quite light enough. Okay, so let's look at the back side of this shape. And yellow and green. It's got a little bit of green, yellow ochre, more yellow. A bit of red. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a yellow-green. Yellow-green and a light pink. I could do that together. Sometimes I like to put both colors on my brush. Yeah, see, that worked fine. I put yellow-green and peach. Now that should start to begin to glow. All right, so I do see some really great opportunities to put a glow, kind of like a reflected light. It's not real bright, but it's, you know, enough to let you think that there is some reflected light in here. So I think that it is reflecting this peach color from the cloth. And there might be some in here. Just a little. All right, now I have to find this shadow color of, let's see, it's my cerulean color. It's this color here, but it's too light, so cerulean and blue. It's almost here. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to clean up those edges a little bit. Now I know that the occlusion color and shadow is pretty dark in this. So I could take a little bit of my purple color that I had, that red and blue, and I could make a purple. It's just very light in here, right? Yes. Red and blue. Mhm. Okay, now there is a very slight shadow right here, and it is actually I have to put yellow in there. So I see it's got a little bit of yellow green. Yellow green, but it's not real bright. Right in here. And there's actually more yellow in here, huh? Oh, there is more yellow. Now, sometimes when you paint, it's important to learn how your brush reacts to paint that's already down there on the canvas. This paint that's already down on the canvas can actually help take the paint off of the brush. So if you apply a very light touch to your area that you are painting without going over it a lot of times, you can begin to understand how alla prima works. So alla prima is wet into wet. Wet paint into wet paint. And that just takes a little bit of time and patience to learn what your brush is willing to do for you and what you're willing to do for your brush. Okay? All right, I'm building up this area in here because I really want to be able to describe the shadow that's in there. This shadow is like, it's right in here. It's like a little glow of light, right? Okay, now I'm going to put that shadow of the stem in there. And I'm talking about a little bit of, okay, the opposite of a green is red, but I don't want it to be too dark. So I want to put the shadow color in, and I have to notice which way that stroke needs to go. So that's a believable shadow. Yeah, it is believable. So I want to clean up this edge on this. I have to find my blue that I used. I don't think that's the blue. Maybe this is a blue? No, it isn't. You want white. Okay, so now I think that this area up here is way too dark. So I could crop my photo to make it go away, which I will do when I finish this area, but I just want to experiment with what it would look like if I lighten that up just a tad. So my mix is yellow ochre, that yellow orange, and it should be similar to this orangey color you have here, but maybe a little bit colder because it's moving away from the light. So I'm going to put some green in there. Let's put a little bit of green. And that is a little bit lighter. And then maybe some more of the yellow, just to bring that temperature up a little bit. Yeah, so I think I can make that work. Let's give her a take and see. That's a little bit too green, right? So back into my reds. I'm going to use the paint that I have on my canvas here, my palette. And I'm going to warm that up just a little bit. So I always look for what paint I already have mixed on my palette. Reason is that you know that you've already used it in your work, so you know it's going to be compatible. All right, so my brush strokes are going diagonally on this. That's my choice. And I'm going to make this just a tad lighter because it's going, actually it should be a little darker. Just a little bit darker, meaning I'll put a little bit more green in there because it's starting to go into shadow. And that's shadow there. Okay, so let's see what would happen if I put a little bit of light in there. Okay, I put white into that color, and I want to put a little bit more green and a little bit more red. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's good for now. The only other thing I might do is some of these edges are pretty hard in this fabric, so I would try to lighten them up a little bit. And I know I mentioned the palette knife before, so I might just kind of scrape this over just a tad. So see how I loosened up that stroke by drawing the paint down? Now my yellow, I'm going to go back in and see if I can pick up some of that yellow color. All right, this is going to be fun. All right, so let's take a look at this yellow. Yellow, I made a yellow green, didn't I, for the background? Got lots of yellow in here. I just picked up some mix that I had of yellow orange, and it's way too orange for me, so I need to put a little bit more yellow in here. And I think I want to use the lemon yellow. I want just a little bit of green in there, so I have to hunt around for a little blue green that I have. All right, so that's a nice color. It's kind of like a greeny color. Yeah, so it's in the background, so it's got to be a little bit colder in color. And I want to pick up a larger brush, like number 4 Filbert. It is a Trekell, and I'm going to just lightly go over these edges here, just on the sides, certain spots, just drawing those lines over so it's not as obvious. I'm softening these edges a little bit. So you can like dry brush over some of these edges, just to like give it a little painterly effect here. Okay, so I'm gonna take, I think I have some white. It's like white with blue. Let's see what color this is. So here's where messy is good. Messy is really good. And I want some of your edges around the apple not to be as crisp. See. Okay, and you know what? I forgot my highlight. So the highlight on the apple is important. I'm using some of that lemon yellow color and white, and I'm just going to take opportunity to dab it on. That's one, and there's a couple more. Right. That little flourish that I put in was not necessary really. So I'm gonna just lightly take it out. So that's fine. So yeah. Maybe I could clean up this area in here a little. And that's kind of like, it's the white. Ooh. Okay, so this is like a lemon yellow color in here. Mm-hmm. And there is a little blue in here, so I'm just cleaning up the edges here. Nice. All right, so I just I don't want any real sharp edges on the outside here. Nice. This is blue in here. I could make this run off. Mm-hmm. And I can see that I could have one more blue. I mean, I'm going overkill with this right now. I'm just, maybe I'm having fun. Ooh, fun. So I'm going back in with my cerulean color. All right. And okay, all things considered, I still want to lighten up this area in the back. It's still just a little bit too dark for me. Just lighten it up a little. And I think I'll put a little bit of white in there. Because these two are too far apart, like this orange and this color here, so I'm using my knife. So I have to go back in with if you have a burnt sienna, that might be a good thing, but if you want to take the time to mix it, that's a pretty color. I like that color. Yeah. So I am just putting my knife on here and flicking. Yeah. And I think we could put some orange in there. Let's see what we got here on the, do we have any yellow orange? I'm hunting for yellow orange. Okay, so I just want to pop a little bit of color in here. So this stroke is very light, but very confidently done. Now I am going to go back in and put a darker value in that corner. just because I see it. Oopsie, that's like way dark. So. All right, I think that's good. Okay, enjoy. If you have any questions, just let me know.